PopCap, a gaming studio legendary for Bejeweled, Peggle, Choozle, Bookworm, and more. Founded in 2000, they made their debut with Bejeweled, a match 3 game where you have to match gems to earn points. The more gems you match, the more points you score. Simple? Yes. Addicting? Damn yes. PopCap Games became legendary after their failed attempt to appeal to hardcore gamers with their previous studio. And I'm not making this up on what they were called previously. Sexy, action, cool. Brilliant title. Their first game before Bejeweled was a poker game called Foxy Poker.
This was our ill-fated foray into...
It attempted to appeal to gamers who wanted hardcore stuff. It flopped.
You know, the payoff was not what they really were hoping for.
So PopCap focused on the opposite end, making it more casual so that it's easy to pick up and play. No having to read the stats effects in Baldur's Gate 3, timing your attacks in the South Park RPGs, no having to read the identifications of Papers, Please, just match 3 gems and that's it. Fun fact, PopCap planned on using alternatives like fruit and other shapes, but went with gems because they were more appealing. They also added music and sound effects to make it more engaging, and my god, they did it. The best 2000s game that wasn't Metal Gear Solid 2.
Is that the best you can do?
Players have never experienced such a game that used simple graphics, yet be so darn addicting. It wasn't like Tetris, get the block out. No, a game that just involves gems and that's it. No tutorial, no instruction booklet, no guide from a magazine, just match gems. It garnered PopCap a crap ton of revenue, leading them to develop more casual games, including Bookworm, Choozle, Peggle, Zuma, and the even better Bejeweled 2. There are even some lesser-known PopCap games such as Alchemy, Pop, Dynamite, and Gyromancer. Like, this is Bejeweled on crack. Can you see the problem here? But in 2009, PopCap Games released its biggest hit ever, Plants vs. Zombies. It took the world by storm. Becoming the fastest-selling game from PopCap, it sold over 300,000 copies in its first 9 days. Even more shocking was that a majority of players were normally hardcore gamers, which is kind of curious considering PopCap's motto of aiming for a casual audience. It garnered ports for every system at the time, from the Xboxes to the DSs. These ports came with their exclusive content, including exclusive minigames like Air Raid. So cool. Plants vs. Zombies became so popular that it uprooted its studio's own games. A sequel was a no-brainer, and on August 15, 2013, a hand arose. Plants vs. Zombies 2, It's About Time, or I'ma call it PvZ2 for short. PvZ2 had better art style and animations for the plants and zombies alike, introduced new plants and zombies, added a plant food mechanic, and new gimmicks in each level. Sounds pretty incredible, ain't it? It is, and it isn't. Not only do microtransactions ruin the PvZ experience, but later updates removed the mini-games, music tracks, and even the level select screen was more streamlined. On launch, PvZ2 maps looked like this in the 3 worlds. Now it's just a straight line from beginning to end. Not the worst thing about the game, but we're getting there. However, PvZ would slowly lose its player base as gamers moved on to other things, such as Undertale. Yeah, I'm not an Undertale person. While PopCap attempted to expand the games with spin-offs, sequels, and even sequels to spin-offs, it still had a loyal player base in 2025. However, PvZ became a thing of the past. What happened, P-Shooter? Why did I fiercely defend this as a kid, but then later realized the haters were right all along in the game dying? And before any of you clowns say I told you so, I was a kid who didn't know better. So join me as we soil the seeds, because I feel like this is the right time, for a very specific reason. Gardens, ready your breakfast and eat hearty, for tonight, we dine in hell.
Yeah, I don't love the idea either.
The first thing we should do to find out what went wrong is to go back to its roots. This is George Fan. George Fan had previously worked as a designer for the game Insane Aquarium and wanted to develop a game involving fish fighting against aliens. But halfway through this concept, he thought of something. Why not, instead of fish, use plants? And it gets even better. While plants fighting aliens may sound cool, the concept of aliens and plants together comes up a bit overused. What should George add to rectify this? Zombies. Zombies move slower than aliens, and they are more humorous in fighting the plants. With the basic concept settled, George got a team of Stephen Notley, the game's writer for the Almanac, Rich Werner, the artist laying out the plants, Todd Semple for programming, and his girlfriend, Laura Shigihara, for music. George designed the plants, giving each one a name and their function. A walnut, for example, serves as a wall to protect other plants, while a pea shooter fights straight forward. However, some plants and zombies got the shovel, especially the zombies, which includes a zombie walking a dog. On the plant side, there was a plant based on an apple that stopped time, but I say apple mortar used its design with a different function. Most interestingly, there's a level based on ice, but Frostbite Caves and PvZ2 use it instead. With the team, they were able to create 49 plants and 26 zombies. The plants range from standard to a bit silly in a good way. The same applies to zombies. The pole vaulting design was added for humorous effect due to absurdity and the frustration of it jumping over a defensive plant. Plants vs. Zombies was meant to be quirky. When compared to other zombie games, which were aimed at a hardcore audience and for adults, PvZ stood out by aiming for all ages. The zombies aren't even scary looking, they were meant to look goofy, which led to a treasure trove of absurd zombies. On the music side, Laura Shigihara developed a soundtrack with a macabre yet goofy tone. Influences for her include Danny Elfman and Still Live from Portal. The ending song that plays over the credits cements that.
You wanna bite all the petals off of my head and then eat the brains of the one who planted me here.
It's catchy.
With a 3.5-year time frame, the team got to work. PopCap took advantage of this by finding a way to promote such a game. Their method? A YouTube video on April 1st. This was the original April Fool's joke. People thought this was fake, but no, it was real. At the time, PopCap did have games that seemed simple enough, but it was nothing like this. It gets even more bizarre for the public when you introduce your zombies, like a standard zombie, the one with a bucket, and a bobsled team. Wait, what? Yep, some people don't even know what to make of a zombie bobsled team, but George Fanda loved it the most. He would petition to add a tennis zombie, but that idea never came to fruition. Finally, on May 5th, 2009, Plants vs. Zombies was released on PC and Mac. Console and mobile versions would follow the following year. You know the drill already. Fast-selling game, hardcore players love it, George Fan was kicked out of PopCap, what the fuck? So George Fan is not a PopCap anymore. It does seem kinda cruel considering how the creator of one of the best games from the company isn't at the studio now. But what caused his dismissal? Rumors began to circulate while George Fan began work on his next game, Autogeddon. Maybe he was fired, maybe he was laid off, maybe he was against PvZ from becoming a big franchise, who knows. While PvZ2 made its launch on mobile phones with tons of microtransactions, the first story came from George Fan himself in a 2017 tweet. He said that he was against the idea of PvZ2 having microtransactions. This statement was supported by Emma McMillan, the designer and artist of The Binding of Isaac. George made Plants vs. Zombies. It was hugely successful. PopCap got acquired by EA. EA made that game even more successful. And then they were like, okay, we're gonna focus on this and we're gonna make a sequel. Spin-offs, this, and this. George was like, great, I've got an idea for a sequel. And EA's like, hey, let's make the sequel and put it on mobile. And we're gonna do this pay to win. And George is like, I don't know, that's not a good idea. I don't really want that with my game. And EA said, you're fired. And he left. This is an abridged version of the story, but you can find a link to the full story in the description below. This story does seem to be plausible. With mobile gaming on the rise, and not just a quick diversion from work, most companies began developing ways to experience gaming on the go that weren't on the 3DS or Vita. Since they discovered that old mobile games made lots through microtransactions, they added microtransactions to their games as well, and it took the world by storm. It comes to the point where mobile gaming can even replace console gaming as a whole, but console games fought back, and most mobile games that players have played as kids aren't even on the App Store anymore, and the ones that are have been reduced to a former shell of themselves. However, another story emerged from several former PopCap employees stating that George was let go as part of the layoffs from PopCap and that he was not involved in PvZ2. There was also a change in leadership that involved going freemium, and that George Fan wasn't interested in a PvZ sequel or becoming a franchise in general. Whatever story is true depends on what the creator said, and at first, it seemed that the first side of the story seemed to be the most believable, since it comes from the man himself. Even some of the recent answers George gave on Reddit support this. He even expressed interest in developing a PvZ2 just with creative freedom, but he also said that microtransactions could work, just not on PvZ. But then in other posts he made, it seemed to support the second story, in which he said he was laid off from PopCap, and holds mixed feelings about it to this day. In the words of someone who made this before me,
but whatever the story is, it's a real shame that PopCap, not EA, disrespected Fan and his talent. They should have put more thought into fostering and treating their teams respectfully.
Regardless of what anyone believes, it had a significant impact on PvZ overall. Older fans were discouraged by the fact that the original creator was no longer involved, and and newer fans are likely to approach us with low expectations, worrying that the magic might be gone. PvZ2 is still available, and PvZ1 can be bought on Steam and mobile, but I heard the mobile version has gotten much worse, and I mean way worse. Before we get to that, George Tran leaving PopCap was one of the early signs that PvZ was heading to a major decline. But even with George Tran's departure, PopCap decided it was time to restructure. Besides George Tran getting the boot, several key members of PopCap have left the studio. Rich Warner, Stefan Notley, Laura Shikihara, Todd Semple, almost the entire team worked on the original PvZ. Even a good number of developers who contributed to PvZ2 either left voluntarily or were laid off. I know this happens often with companies, and PopCap isn't the most notorious, but regardless of what studio it is, when they downsize and lay off staff members, that's their first warning sign that a company isn't going too well. Canceling projects is another boat entirely. While big studios like Ubisoft and EA are gonna live because they're too big to fail, some of the smaller studios like Deck 9, Telltale, and Black Forest Games are the ones I show severe concern about. Black Forest Games especially considering they have a new TMNT game coming out. Like, you announced the movie a couple months after the game was announced, and then you lay off half of your staff? Going back to PopCap, studios associated with the company, like Vancouver and Dublin, were shut down. Unlike Capcom Vancouver, which is still mourned after 7 years after its last tweet, PopCap seems to be silently dying alone. I nearly cheered up when a couple of longtime fans hung their heads, saying PopCap is beyond saving after they had to shut down PvZ3 again. It was the quintessential childhood game, and seeing a shutdown relaunch over 3 times signaled that this might never work. PopCap remains radio silent, and fans had to admit it was time to move on. PvZ became a thing of the past, and while players have gone to Deltarune or Hollow Knight, PopCap had another card that also played a role in severely mortally wounding its franchise.
We're not done yet.
I understand that free games need to make their money, but rather than develop a well-made game which encourages people to spend more on it, developers decide to squeeze more money out of a game by encouraging players to spend more. How do they encourage? By making it ridiculously hard. You thought PvZ1 was way too easy? PvZ2 digs up the corpse, covers it in kerosene, lights it on fire, roasts marshmallows on it, and combines it with crackers and chocolate to make s'mores. PvZ2 is so hard that you'll be getting a ton of brains being eaten. Why is it so hard? Zombies, even stronger than before, coming in huge waves that your pathetic plants can't pierce through. PopCap loves to send huge waves of very powerful zombies that your plants can't keep up. This is not the gamer playing awful, it's the fact that the difficulty loves to eat your wallet. It gets worse when you deal with zombies that can instantly kill plants, make them useless, or buff other zombies even more. How do you rectify this? Get even stronger plants! You see, the game is asking you to buy premium plans to make the game much easier, because if you don't like the difficulty, why not pay to win? And this asks the question, should I skip paying the transaction so I could beat the game without paying a cent? Technically yes, but practically no. Whenever you play one of those levels where PvZ2 sends a huge wave of zombies after you, you're tempted to purchase one of those premium plans to make it a little easier. But you realize you're dirt poor watching other players have it better than you. Not only that, some of the plants locked behind the paywall are the more nostalgic plants like the Snow Pea, the Torchwood, Imitator, Cactus, and Chomper. Plus, the ones that sound more useful like the Power Lily are also locked behind the paywall. Thankfully, you don't have to get them, but there's a feeling of missing out on these old plants when you play the game as normal. Then we encounter a less obvious but equally frustrating change, locking upgrades behind microtransactions. In PvZ1, you could choose up to 6 plants at the start of each level. As you earn more in-game currency, you can increase the number of seeds you can select per level. The maximum number of plants you can select in each level is 10. You can also buy other upgrades, like plants that can be placed over other plants and making them even more efficient, such as the Twin Sunflower or the Mega Gatling Pea. Additionally, you can unlock extra lane clearing defenses like the Pool Cleaner and Roof Cleaner. Later, you unlock unusual upgrades like the Walnut Aid, which allows you to plant another walnut or other defensive plant on top of the original damaged one, essentially healing it. However, in PvZ2, the upgradable plants are replaced by standalone versions, which we will discuss later, and their upgrades are locked behind paywalls. You can still get upgrades by playing normally, but to get every upgrade, you gotta fork over that wallet. This loops back with the premium plant problem. To make the game much easier, buy this permanent upgrade. Thankfully, they cost less than the premium plants, but you still feel like you gotta leg down when someone else has this upgrade. Later updates to PvZ2 reduce the difficulty, or maybe because they got a lot more strategic of these levels, and while I am grateful that you can beat the game without premium plants or upgrades, they still feel left out because now you don't even need to beat the game. They're obsolete. They're only there so that players can feel the nostalgia of using them now. Plus, on a side note, since I haven't played the game in a while, I have no idea what many of these plants do because so many were introduced while I was not playing the game, so I skipped them and stuck with the plants I was familiar with. I'll get to another reason why later, but just let it be one of the reasons for now. Even PvZ1 got neutered. When it was initially made available for free on mobile devices, fans who had yet to play the game were excited, until they were bombarded with ads. It's still a great gameplay as in the original, but to get it to the way it was originally, ads flood everywhere. There's ads that distract you from the game, ads to unlock stuff, ads whenever you go, wherever you go.
Would you like to view a video to earn an Explodo nut? But that's what I do every Friday night.
It wouldn't be so bad if we paid like $2.99 to remove the ads.
Wow, thanks!
You're so gullible Smurf. If you want to remove the ads, simply pay to have them removed. Temporarily. Yeah, some of the microtransactions in PvZ1 don't even obliterate the ads. Just get them for a week or two, and then get the ads again. Some of them even cost more than Plants vs. Zombies Game of the Year edition on Steam. What the fuck? You're better off just buying PvZ on Steam. I did that for one of my thumbnail artists. Going back to PvZ2, while the later updates have reduced the difficulty, the microtransactions have gotten worse. An update rolled around, allowing you to upgrade plants. What does that mean? It means that you can now collect seed packets of a particular plant. Get enough seed packets, and you can upgrade that plant for a faster cooldown, more health, and increased attack. Sounds cool, ain't it? You just peed in the pool. For one, collecting seed packets requires the player to get pinatas. You get pinatas for beating events or certain levels. Or you could just buy them with real money. Yes, to buy your way into getting stronger plants, you have to spend real money on pinatas. Pinatas are like the loot boxes of other games of microtransactions. You can get seed packets for plants you don't need, or plants you don't even own without buying them. But you better get used to it because it's gonna get worse. The max level for fully upgrading a plant is level 20. I'm reading that it can change depending on the plant to around level 10 or 15, but can you imagine opening tons of pinatas, giving you tons of useless plants that you don't need to upgrade, on the off chance of getting the upgrades for the plant you want? Repeat that 20 times. That's great gameplay. But it gets even more ludicrous when PvZ2 introduced mastery levels. You know those times when you reach the max level of any video game, and the game encourages you to keep getting experience to add a sliver of boost to your stats in exchange? Yeah, mastery levels in PvZ2 are just like that. Every time you get a plant to the next level after you get to a max level at first, the game increases the plant's base damage, chance to activate a plant booster without having to give it plant food, and base health by a paltry amount. This continues until the plant reaches the mastery level maximum of 200. Now this is just one plant. There's over 200 of them in the game as of current. Better get used to digging. Going outside the PvZ2 conundrum, the other PvZ spin-offs had this too. PvZ Heroes, starring characters that will have too many results when you turn off safe search. Meet Smash, Smash, Smash. PvZ Heroes is a card battling spin-off that takes the plants and zombies and turns them into parodies of common heroes. It takes even rare zombies like the Yeti zombie and makes them love cold brain cream. The game plays out like other card battling games like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, and the Elder Scrolls Legends. Oh wait, that came out after PvZ Heroes. PvZ Heroes plays very similar to these games, with a more humorous twist. Since this is PvZ, they added lanes for strategy purposes. These lanes can boost certain plants and zombies alike. Meanwhile, you have cards that boost attack and defense for your cards, while also lowering the defense and attack of your opponents. Then there are the status effects, called traits here, that can stun, freeze, take damage instead of defeating the plant or zombie, boost the attack when nothing is opposing the card, does piercing damage. It's a flippin' mess. And of course, card battlers love it for its complexity. It's gonna be one of those games, isn't it? Not the microtransactions, but little old Cringer was so used to PvZ classic gameplay that he got his brains eaten trying to beat this thing. But we're not talking about the difficulty, we're talking about the cards. Like any game that involves card collecting, you have to buy booster packs, which, like the pinatas in PvZ2, give you a random selection of cards you may or may not have already owned. It depends on whether or not it's worth here, because unlike PvZ2, you don't need to upgrade cards, but you can craft them. Yeah, crafting is in this game, and it's something. The basic gist of crafting is that when you recycle cards or complete hero quests, you get a currency called Sparks. Sparks are used to craft cards. The benefit of crafting is that you can get certain cards without having to rely on packs, but little me was so confused by this that I rarely, if not ever, use this at all. Aside from that, the only reason to play PvZ Heroes is that if you're either a diehard PvZ fan like I was back in the day, into card games, or shipping bait, like these two. Plants vs. Zombies 2 did get a sequel, Plants vs. Zombies 3. Unfortunately, I was not able to play it, but let's just say that this game is PvZ at its worst.
No! God, please, no! No!
Remember, I used to defend this franchise to a Z. I could talk about how this game is a failure, but we're gonna get to that before we talk about the scummy use of money. Like the second game, leveling up plants makes a return here. Only it's worse. The game loves to be so unfair, sending zombies that are produce sponges, increasing their health and reducing damage taken so that they can overwhelm you faster. And so what happens is that you try to find other ways to get more seed packets, and you guessed it, microtransactions. Hope that level 6 pea shooter was worth it. Another update came out, but it was somehow worse than before. Now in the next version of PvZ3, there's a lives meter akin to Candy Crush. You know the drill: when you run out of lives, buy more. And remember, since the game loves to be brutal in later stages, you're gonna have brains be eaten faster than cheetahs, which isn't helped by the speed of the zombies, because look at it! They're running faster than greased lightning. This hasn't helped when it comes to our next reasoning. During the first iteration of PvZ3, the game mostly played like PvZ Heroes, which means playing the game upright like a phone, which wouldn't look so good if you have giant fingers.
Why the fuck can I type? Why are my thumbs so big?
Mobile friendly, my brain, this is blissfully incompetent. Secondly, the art style. Complain about Battle for Neighborhood's art style, but at least it was vibrant, colorful, and kinda cute. In PvZ3, it's so rancid that I gagged when I first looked at it. Thirdly, no sunflowers. Oh yes, folks, you aren't gonna plant any sunflowers in the first iteration of PvZ3. You're gonna plant pea shooters, cabbage plants, lightning reeds, bong choys, potato mines, and a bunch of other things, but no sunflowers. How do you take out the quintessential plant in PvZ? Even the first game said sunflowers are an extremely important plant. So no sunflowers means that a crucial part of PvZ was gone. In most playthroughs of PvZ, it's generally recommended to bring a sun-producing plant, which allows the player to lay down the fences much faster than collecting sun normally. But with no sunflowers, expect yourself to be overwhelmed constantly, which isn't helped by the bullet sponge zombies. The second update to PvZ3 brought back the sunflowers, but took away the ability to select your plants. Granted, in the first and second games, there are some levels where you have to deal with the plants the game selects for you, but at least it was manageable thanks to power-ups, selecting some other plants, and some of the plants chosen were not terrible. PvZ3, Shooter! Combined with the artificial difficulty and the increasing speed of the zombies, and how to launch a structure in certain levels, because look at this. Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! It's a flippin' mess. It just screams at you to give your wallet. Also on a tangent, considering that this is called PvZ3, wouldn't you expect the game to expand on the original? A sequel is generally seen as a medium that expands on the original with new elements and changes. PvZ2 introduces time travel, new plants, power-ups, new zombies, etc. There are over 200 plants in PvZ2 as of making this video, as I said earlier. And yes, they were added over updates, but new designs, animations, and cool new minigames make players come back for more. What does PvZ3 add? Almost nothing. Yes, there are new plants and zombies, but they're so boring that they could just be in PvZ2. 95% of the content in PvZ3 was covered from PvZ1 and 2. Same plants, same zombies. Now there's only like one new plant and zombie out of 19 returning ones. The power-ups are just the plants now, no power snow, power flick, or power zap. This is more like PvZ 2.2. To call it PvZ3 is extremely disingenuous. In the first iteration of PvZ3, they added somewhat of a rock, paper, scissors mechanic where certain plants are stronger than zombies and vice versa. But with the bloated difficulty once again, this rock, paper, scissors circle becomes a dead body. Even if your plant should be stronger in terms of type, a zombie with a weaker type can still eat that plant thanks to it being a produce sponge. Also, should I mention that to make your plant stronger besides collecting seed packets is giving them tacos?
Yes, this should provide adequate sustenance for the Doctor Who marathon.
Somehow, giving a plant a bean and cheese surprise turns a pea shooter into a repeater. The only major addition in PvZ3 was a story. Now, PvZ games don't really have much of a story, just defend yourself from zombies until you get the music video. But PvZ3 has Dr. Zombas take over the land of Suburbia, and you must liberate it. Does this mean we're gonna form a resistance organization to oppose him? Kinda? They did mention that the plants you unlock in-game were captured and you must rescue them, but aside from that, you're just mindlessly doing generic PvZ gameplay. Believe it or not, remember the reason why you can't plant sunflowers? The game offers an in-universe reason for it. The Zomboss deliberately allowed one sunflower to walk free while he captured the other sunflowers. Okay, besides that, it's just bland. And since this was the first version of PvZ3, this story was scrapped. The second iteration of PvZ3 was different, to say the least. Now, you're tasked with rebuilding Suburbia with the help of the girl and guy from the PvZ comics. Somehow, this is even more bare bones than the previous iteration. The more I think about it, maybe the first version with its portrait mode isn't so bad after all. I'd rather play the DS version of the OG PvZ than this. This looks so boring that I swear it could be a match 3 puzzle game if PvZ wasn't slapped onto it. Oh hey, it almost is. We interrupt this video for a mid-editing update. I can't believe that after my video was done, more details about PvZ3 came out. Just as I finished the editing and was about to start finding a way to promote the video, PvZ3 had a leak. Returning plants like the Gatling Pea and Cattail were revealed, and new ones such as the Green Shadow and Solar Flare from PvZ Heroes were included. Is it like a Spider-Man style where anyone could be that character, allowing you to plant multiple of the same plant character? Or can you only plant one of each PvZ hero at a time? I don't know, but the biggest addition was the new combo plants. You can mix 2 plants to create one more powerful plant. There are many possible combinations the gardener can try, but that's just a drop in the bucket compared to the gameplay, which will likely be as basic as PvZ2. While it's nice to have a new mechanic in PvZ3 compared to PvZ2, I feel like this might favor selecting only the best plants per combination. And I get that. Game development is challenging, and balancing plants like that is almost impossible. But you need more than just combo plants and a return of shipping bait if you want to consider PvZ3 a true sequel. With the fusion mechanic, it feels more like PvZ 2.5. Maybe a multiverse will do? I mean, I pitched it when X Define was shutting down. Okay, let's get out of the terribleness and jump into the other games. How about the PvZ shooters? Oh, that's right. These games exist and take what is a basic casual game that appealed to hardcore gamers and made it for hardcore gamers. Does that analogy make sense? Because I'm crazy! Anyway, the PvZ shooters are considered to be great spin-offs to their original titles and a fun change of pace compared to the modern shooters we had at the time. There was no Modern Warfare when we had Garden Warfare. Garden Warfare takes the core PvZ gameplay and tosses it into a blender with Call of Duty. Despite how absurd it sounds, it actually works. Players can pick between 4 classes for each side and chomp it out in different game modes. Garden Ops, defend your garden from away with zombies with you and your buddies. Team Vanquish, your standard match and you score points whenever you kill. And Gardens and Graveyards, a defend your section for the plants, attack for the zombies. Even though there were only 4 classes, like in other shooters like Battlefield, the game adds its own split with variants. Elemental, to downright absurd copies of their original counterparts. This adds a lot of strategy as you find which builds you like for either side. The sequel takes it to new grounds, adding 3 new classes for each side, along with their own variants and new modes. What they did add was different variants of the plant and zombie modes, and made them for the other side. You want to play Garden Ops but with zombies? There you go. PopCap even added other modes based on what the shooters were doing, like a Capture the Flag mode known as Capture the Taco. These games, despite just being a poor man's Call of Duty or Battlefield, have their charm to them, and surprisingly still have a player base today. So if you hate Overwatch 2, pick this one up.
Victory is ours, my friends!
But in 2019, PopCap would announce a new game that played very similarly to Garden Warfare, Battle for Neighborville.
Monsieur, does this mean
Plants vs. Zombies.
he's back?
Kinda? Let's start with the surface level criticism that people complained about, namely the art style. I say it's better and worse. On the better side, it is more cartoony which is like the games, but on the other hand, some of the designs look off. They look like rejects from other cancelled console 3D PvZ games, but graphics and character designs aside, let's revamp how the gameplay goes. First off, say goodbye to variants. Instead of having the classes stand out in terms of elements, or how cool it is to reference Mass Effect, you get 10 characters per each side, with half on the Assault side, and only 1 in the Swarm class. And the Swarm class on launch requires players to pay money if they want to blast brains. It's awful. And what adds to it? The single-player campaign. It's a generic fill the world with repetitive activities to pad out the gameplay. Players were not happy, and PopCap realized that they hit the last cob. After a final update in 2020 and a Switch port in 2021 that fixed many of the issues, PopCap closed its Vancouver studio. It really sucks seeing a company close its doors. Aside from people losing their jobs, you could tell that they weren't slacking around when they made the game. Yes, there are going to be some stragglers, but saying it's the worst game ever is a massive overstatement. When you're talking about DMC Devil May Cry, Dead Rising 4, and PvZ Battle for Neighborville. It isn't like the other games, which do offer valid complaints, but on its own right, they're fine. I have played far worse. Naturally, people will compare them to the predecessors, and that's fine, but if you want to have fun, knock yourself out. Just don't buy the Switch version if you're going to play it on the Switch too. With the shooters reaching an end, can we go back to the PvZ 2 bubble? It's still around, releasing new plants that it overshadows its predecessor by 4/1. Generally, besides PvZ 3, this is where the zombie popping heads from produce games died. Since PvZ 3 was never officially released, barely anything was announced for PvZ aside from updates to PvZ 2, which reminds me, how has that game changed? It was for the worse. First off, do you like the more generic corporate looking almanac? Have that with a side of the removal of minigames like Mummy Memory and other games like Cannons Away and my personal favorite, Sun Bonds being watered down. Secondly, the music. PvZ music is known for being the absolute cream of the crop. It comes to the point where a soundtrack from a casual game can excel over what AAA studios are doing around that time. PvZ2 music, despite not being as good as the originals, still had a catchy soundtrack. Listen to the demonstration minigame music and all of its 11 world variants. The same applies to Ultimate Battle. Even going to Neon Mixtape Tour, where its gimmick is that the music enhances the zombies, despite getting your brains eaten, the music is at least rapping enough to allow the rapper zombie to whip your plant. Now take it all away. You're just left with the world music. Oh, the music in Neon Mixtape Tour is still there, but everything else, demonstration minigame and Ultimate Battle, are chopped off.
No, not you.
What? You're upset? Don't worry, we're gonna bring back the old plastic Doomshroom, Iceshroom, and whatever the send this thing is. Hope that nostalgia ball hasn't popped yet. There really isn't anything more to say than what I already said, so let's review. PvZ2 is worth getting. I mean, you're probably watching this on your mobile device, and you can download it on the App Store, but let the downloader beware. It's not the same experience I grew up with. It's been 12 years since PvZ2, and I have made friends who share a fondness of this game, and I've lost friends who share a fondness of this game. All I can say now is that the state of PvZ2 is sad. And it gets worse. I mentioned earlier in this video that it's been a while since I played PvZ2, and although I was able to get used to the gameplay, I still haven't gotten used to the new plans introduced. Some of them I don't even know what they're used for, so maybe I'll watch what they do on YouTube, and that's when I come across interviews from former PopCap developers talking about the state of PvZ as of 2023. One such interview mentions how PopCap was hesitant to try a new IP after the explosive success of PvZ2, which caused them to prioritize it more than some of their other legendary franchises like Bejeweled and Peggle. How will they encourage players to return to the game? Make new plants, but not just any plants. Bring back some old plants for nostalgia's sake and create better versions of existing ones. This is power creep. Power creep, in the formant's terms, refers to new content that is significantly stronger than the current content. PvZ2 isn't the only example of this, but for a game that's been running for over 12 years, you need to introduce new plants, locations, and mechanics to keep things fresh. Creative designs and all that, what really matters to gamers is whether they're good plants. In fairness, even the first game was flawed and balanced, the cactus being the worst plant and the wintermelon being the best. PvZ1 being the perfect game and all made some plants obsolete. Going to PvZ2, holy butternuts. So many plants, so many zombies, so much leveling. With over 200 plants in PvZ2, it's almost impossible to balance every one of them. These 200 plants include almost every plant in the first PvZ, some of which weren't added until years later, when the age demographic should be adults or teens by now. They also included plants that made it look like the team was running out of ideas. I can't blame them, I run out of ideas a lot. After that, they added the nightcap. Remember him? He was in PvZ Heroes. I sure hope he... Wait, is it she now? Is she trans? According to Kevin Hanna, the creator of the character, Nightcap is gender fluid, or at the very least implied. Whatever, we have our first queer plant in-game. Ship her with Bong Choi. Bong Choi was my go-to plant when PvZ2 first dropped. It's not only a cool plant in concept, being a melee punching stick, but it does that cool uppercut whenever it kills a zombie. Its plant food effect does insane damage, and pairing him behind a defensive plant like a walnut and a spikeweed in front of a nut guarantees devastating blows. But that goes behind the lightning reed, which is my favorite plant in PvZ2 when it first launched. It can attack adjacent lanes, it's very effective against weasels and chickens, and despite dealing so-so damage, when you have a full army of them, you can deal cataclysmic energy blasts. Plus, that electrocution kill animation never got old to me. Anyone up for fried chicken? It's not affectionate, trust me. But then the Wasabi Whip and Electric Pea Shooter uprooted, and they were better than the plans I used to enjoy. What happened? When something was released 12 years ago and still gets updated, you need to find a way to get players to return. Let's make the plants better than the old ones. Look at a plant as cool as the electric current, yet it's completely useless. Why not try a lightning reed, or an electric blueberry, or even the electric pea shooter? Even though plants in PvZ2 nowadays are divided by min types, sun cost, and plant food effect, whether or not they were good depended on one factor as a whole, how effective it is in killing zombies. Since PvZ2 loves to send huge waves to you, you need a plant that is effective at killing a bunch of zombies at once. Great, I mean grape shot. It can kill zombies like a cherry bomb and bounce off the the lawn and kill zombies during the process. But you need sun producers, additional attackers, and a handful of defensive plants to guard your innards. I had a strategy where I used winter melons, sunflowers, potato mines, and primal walnuts along with gold blooms, grape shots, and kernel pulse so that I keep freezing the zombies and getting huge sun boosts. I stuck with that strategy for nearly that entire playthrough. I don't even bother trying to get new plants that are locked behind seed packets because why get them unless we're 100% completion, nostalgia, or unless they're better than the build I have currently. It isn't helped by the leveling system, making my current strategy stronger than ever. Of course, protecting your house from zombies is a main route. If you're facing parasol or surfboarding zombies that shield themselves from plants like wintermelon, you could use a straight firing plant like bloomerang. Actually, don't. A laser beam outperforms it because you can hit all zombies in a lane, while bloomerang can only target 3 at a time. And by 3, I mean 3 targets, not just zombies. It also hits ice blocks, gravestones, protective shields. Some plants that are useless, like the chomper, are ruined by even stronger, yet still useless plants like the toadstool, which gives sun every time she eats a zombie. Notice how I said useless because chewing and swallowing is so slow, and because zombies come in huge waves, you're gonna have a very rough day. Plus, what's the whole point of using a toadstool to produce a pitiful amount of sun when at max level they give 100 sun in 10 seconds? I got a gold bloom from an epic quest all those years ago, and they give 375 sun every time I plant one. Sure, it doesn't give more sun at max level, but they can recharge more quickly when at max level. Just give it a few extra seconds. In addition, the PvZ wiki notes that the gold bloom gives more sun than a sun producing plant when given plant food. The gold bloom is my current favorite plant so far, thanks to their feature. While the game does balance it out by locking the better plants on the premium side, there are still plants that can be obtained for free by playing the level. You can get a spring bean, but he's only useful in pirate seeds. After that, he's worthless. For 25 sun more and 2 more knockbacks, the charred guard is a replacement you need for your seed. Let's look at another example, the cabbage pult, the first plant you lock in the first world, ancient Egypt. While it can lob over gravestones, it doesn't do much damage when compared to something like a pea shooter. Want a better plant that attacks by launching? The AKEE is a plant for you. For 75 more sun, you can hit multiple zombies with one shot, and can pop off more heads compared to a cabbage pult when given plant food. Same thing applies to the repeater and the red stinger, walnut and primal walnut, potato mine and primal potato mine, peanut and endurian, and the stunnion and stalia. You tell me, dear viewer, why go with a weaker version of a much better plant? Then there are plants that, while sounding cool on paper, are terrible in execution. Better dig it up, Vampersini. And intensive carrot. I wonder what goes on in the idea lab at SUCKAS when they run out of ideas for new plants. So they add pre-existing plants from the prequel or the LGBTQ plant. Are we gonna have pronouns now in the third game?
For the last time, Parker! Our pronouns are they, them.
Oh god, it's woke. They're gonna go after your children. There are so many plants that it's almost amazing how a game from 2013 gets updates to this day. Perhaps a small place in Asia made it popular as they get worlds and plants that we don't get in stinking America. Maybe there's a way to reflourish by fixing the power creep in the OG game. Mods in video games are nothing new. Pretty much everyone has either witnessed or played a mod in a video game before. Mods are often added for the sake of someone's amusement, or in my preferred case, adding new gameplay elements and reworking them into a more enjoyable experience. So many mods are created that some were even turned into original games of their own, like the Forgotten City. Other mods are created in response to some terrible mechanics, like Mass Effect 3's Happy Ending mod, or Kingdom Come Deliverance's Unlimited Saves mod. PvZ2 mods are the latter. When PvZ2 first launched and started removing features over time, fans were not happy to say the least. So they developed modifications to restore how PvZ2 was originally meant to be played. There are multiple mods for PvZ2, but the one I'm highlighting in this video is PvZ2 Reflourished. Reflourish's biggest selling points, besides removing microtransactions, are new worlds. Yes, do you feel left out for not having the cattail in the previous game and it being replaced by a homing thistle? Well, it's back here. Want to visit worlds that were only available in China? Welcome to the Steam Ages and the Sky City, aerial airspace, demonstration minigame and ultimate battle, the mummy memory minigame, it's all back. PvZ2 Reflourish received such attention that big-name YouTubers promoted it as an alternative to the original PvZ2.
Vanilla's hitting it kind of twice. We're taking care of those real quick. I'm not so worried about them.
This will draw in players who were stubborn at the loss of the current PvZ2. Sure, they had to rework the plants, with some having ensoiling prices, but mostly everything else remained intact. New costumes were added from PvZ Heroes 2. Interesting shoutouts. They reworked the Zen Garden so that different effects will be added aside from the plant food when you first plant them, and it comes off as a hit or miss. On the one leaf, it does make some plants more cost effective, but on the other, it just doesn't feel the same. Anyway, as of the writing of the script, I completed the first 5 worlds so far. Also, despite installing the skip mod, which completes much of the game for you so that you can access the new worlds, I couldn't get it to activate for some reason. Oh well, at least I am able to catch up. The mod is still the great gameplay PvZ2 had, and with the demonstration minigame and Ultimate Battle returning, it elevates to a solar eclipse. What's even more stunning is that the PvZ2 Reflourish brought back the Loom Boom minigame music. Just listen. Even more of a stunner, remember the air raid minigame that was exclusive only if you have a Nintendo dual screen? Yep, air raid is back and PvZ2 Reflourished.
I love this. More like this, please. I've never played this like anything like... I mean, obviously I played games like this, but I have never played anything like this in Plants vs. Zombies in my life. This is so cool.
Sure, it's not the same, but you can't deny that it's the best change of pace since Mummy Memory and Cannons Away in the previous game. My goodness, is PvZ2 back? Well, it is a mod of PvZ2. I understand the importance of mods, but I would rather play the game as it's presented to me. But on the other hand, PvZ2 nowadays has been watered down to a generic mobile game, and Reflourish seeks to bring back the classic feeling when PvZ2 first launched, but also add new places to keep it fresh. I don't know guys, maybe you should try the game yourself and see what you think, but I'm pretty sure 95% of you are gonna say that Reflourish is better. So if Reflourish is the PvZ2 experience, so why hasn't EA or Pocket done something about it? File a cease and desist even though the mod is free for all. Well, I doubt they would chop it down. If EA or PopCap had filed a cease and desist, it would look really bad for both companies. This is a major flaw with the lawsuit. Not only would it bring more attention to the mod, but it would also bring more negative attention to EA or PopCap. Fans who stuck around will be disgusted by this action, and haters will use it as a crutch under Why PopCap Games Sucks page on DeviantArt. If Nintendo generates a lot of buzz for shutting down fan games, why can't this be different? The OG PvZ2 isn't going to be the same anymore. Fans have moved on. Die-hard PvZ zombies can't even defend the franchise, while replacements have become the standard. Other games like Deltarune, Hollow Knight, and whatever trending children's horror game are rising, and PopCap has faded into obscurity. The franchise is dead. But if the story ended here, why is this video meant to be more positive? Why has the community stuck around, creating fan art of characters? Why does PvZ fan art look incredible in some ways? The community stayed engaged. That's what matters. There might be hope for this franchise. I hate to go back to my roots as a garden defender, but maybe a little sprout can still come from this. Aside from a Switch port of PvZ Battle for Neighborville, more updates to PvZ2, and the constant killings of PvZ3, nothing came out for PvZ as a whole. George Fan moved on to develop other games like Hard Hat Wombat.
What a load of crap.
While videos began surfacing about the death of a franchise that the creators used to enjoy while hitting their heights, PvZ mania was over. But 6 years after Battle for Neighborhood's release, something really interesting happened. 2025, 16 years after the launch of the first PvZ, the official PvZ channel on YouTube uploaded a Sweet 16. It's fine, I guess, but what would really be nice is something new, maybe an action-adventure game spin-off. Instead, we had the Lo-Fi Lounge. While the visuals kinda look nice, what fans truly want is something new. And on July 31st, 2025, we got one. During a Switch 2 Direct about third-party companies porting their games onto Nintendo's most popular successor, this trailer dropped.
Time to get back to your roots.
A port of PvZ1 to modern systems with new features? This was the PvZ game of everyone's dreams. Not only would you get the old fans back, but also newcomers who had yet to experience the tower defense legend that it once was. With the release date set a week before Halloween, was not the plan.
You have proven yourself.
Foolishness, Dante. Foolishness.
Well, on the day of the announcement, original PvZ artist Rich Warner said that he was not involved with the Replanted remaster. Another artist for the OG PvZ, Enrique Cortz, also stated that he wasn't involved in the remaster. They would gladly be involved if PopCap or EA offered them the choice. Aside from the artists not being involved, a big gateway to entry is the price point.
Uh-huh! $20. I wanted a peanut.
$20. The original PvZ can be bought on Steam for $5. You're asking your audience for 4 times that much. Granted, the OG PvZ was also $20 on launch, and since this was 2009, it would be $30 today. Less than half the price of The Outer Worlds 2, which is still $70. Good call, Obsidian. Now, $20 is not a death sentence. I'm pretty sure you can spend $20 on this game. Don't spend your money on another game. right?
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. All the fields we go, laughing all the way.
Several eagle-eyed viewers noticed some graphical errors, no news that it will support mods, barely any changes to the Xbox and PS3 versions of the game, but now being released on modern systems, and the fact that if you pre-order the game, you can get a retro Pea Shooter skin. Not a DS skin, a retro skin that looks like if PBZ was released on the NES in 1989. But aside from that, these complaints were drowned out by those gardeners with hype who had nostalgia for the franchise, and perhaps being able to play it on the go besides the mobile versions. I don't blame those who expressed doubt in this remaster succeeding, but I will say that, like everyone else, PBZ may be back. As of this video's recording, PBZ Replanted has yet to be released. I pre-ordered it and hope to pop off the heads of zombies soon. The legacy of Plants vs. Zombies is far from hopeless. The community for PBZ has stayed strong, even when some grew with PBZ 2 before PBZ 1. Some of the most popular YouTubers have introduced players to PBZ, whether it be the Flash games or seeing that music video. Plants vs. Zombies have made an impact that changed the landscape of gaming as we know it. Hardcore gamers can play such an easy game, and as I have played Cyberpunk and Baldur's Gate 3 recently, I plant by that statement. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to stay out of cringe.